Hi everyone, we're going to talk a little bit about the new Netflix 2018 reboot of Lost in Space. Glen and I both, we got all the way through the series, all 10 episodes. And tell me, try to avoid spoilers, tell me what you thought.
Oh, we're avoiding spoilers. Okay. I thought it was fun overall. It had a nice degree of, or a nice amount of like adventure, and I love movies that, you know, like go someplace, go to another planet and explore, or you know, anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be another planet, but that spirit of exploration and reaching out into the, you know, into the universe, and even by mistake, they didn't go there on purpose. But yeah, it was fun. It was interesting. Yes, it had some problems, but it kept me pretty much the whole time. It kept me entertained and interested in what was happening. The acting I thought was solid. Some of it not as good as others, but you know, like maybe the kid was a little bit off, but he's a kid actor, so.
Well, it's also the script he was given was a little awkward at points. I thought. I thought he was an okay to good actor.
He was fine.
It's hard to tell because it really depends on you know, if he's a good actor, you need a good script too.
Well, it was kind of a hokey, based off of a hokey idea from the '60s,
right?
And you know, updated and stuff, but it's not a serious sci-fi show, like a hard sci-fi show by any means. It is very loosey-goosey with the sci-fi in places.
It's loosey-goosey with the science too.
Which is fine. Well, yeah, with the science, that's what I meant.
In the you know what you're getting into in the very opening scene. The opening scene is a family sitting around a table in spacesuits. There's obviously something weird going on because they're trying to distract themselves from some anxiety about where the ship is going, and they're playing Go Fish. And, you know, and so the dialogue and, you know, family sitting around playing Go Fish, you know, and when they call a card, they float the card through the air to each other. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then of course the sister cheats because she sees a reflection of the card in the helmet of the spacesuit.
They're all in the spacesuits.
So immediately from that scene, you know, okay, I am watching a family show, and that's fine.
Right.
So we're not going to get, you know, risque content. Probably not too violent. Probably not too many, bad words.
Very PG, maybe PG-13.
Yeah.
Had a few swear words here and there, and that's it.
For me, it kept me watching all the way through, but I found, and I watched it with my wife, I found we were both complaining through the whole thing while we were also enjoying it. We would see a scene, we'd like, oh, that's a lot of fun, or look, that looks great, or I like that moment in between characters, but then we would also we'd stop and we'd say to each other, why are they doing that? Why are they saying
more
that?
More that than the other, probably. More complaining than
that's
patting the show on the back.
The complaining is what prompted us to say something. Otherwise, we try to just be quiet and watch the show or the movie, whatever. But one of the interesting things is it's called Lost in Space, and it's, you know, sort of a reboot, a soft reboot of the original show. But this whole season, all 10 episodes, you could really rename the show Lost on Planet. Because they're just on one planet the whole, starting from episode 1. They land on a planet, or crash land on a planet.
Excuse me. Yeah, I thought like by episode 2 or 3 I was ready for them to leave the planet. Because they're not introducing that much interesting stuff. I mean, there's things on the planet, but basically what's interesting on the planet is what crashed onto the planet from space, where they were on, you know, part of this colony ship. Everything else is sort of like, the weather, and there's some alien looking terrain and in plant life and stuff like that, and what animal life. Eventually, we start seeing more animal life, but there's just not anything super interesting about the planet. It's just a planet.
It looks cool.
There's animals and plants on it.
As a matter of fact, it's kind of sparse with its animal life, and that was one of my complaints.
A little.
Probably because to do a lot of CGI and costuming and stuff would get really expensive, so they tried to minimize that. So they had a few creatures and animal life on the planet. But one of the big problems that I had with the show was that they crash land on an alien planet, and there's, I forget, 8 or 9 other ships from the colony ship that crash on the planet too.
I don't even know.
And so they're on this alien planet.
Excuse me.
So they're on this alien planet. I'll edit it out.
Okay. 3,
maybe
2, 1.
Maybe not.
Whatever.
So they're on this alien planet, and they do encounter a couple of life forms that are, potentially hazardous to their lives. That could kill them or hurt them. And it's such a PC show. They don't allow anybody to have any guns. Even though they can print guns, they have 3D printers on their ships. Nobody's allowed to have a gun.
The one gun in the show. Well, I don't know if I want to get into that.
Yeah, don't tell too much.
There
detail.
is eventually a gun, but not many.
Right, and they end up fashioning like 3 or 4 foot long poles with little spikes on the end to kind of stab like cavemen, when they can really print much better both melee weapons and ranged weapons. There's a lot of that in this show. Technology that they should have, that we even have today, that seems to be missing. They just throw it out the window and say, we don't want to deal with that, I guess. They don't have video surveillance. There's no real digital technology information transfer. In the first episode, there's a scene where the eldest daughter, who's rooting for her younger brother to get into the colonist program, but they're waiting for his results. She takes all of her study guides, which are a bunch of notebooks and books, and she throws them in the trash. And she says, I don't need them. I'll just use yours when you get them, trying to reassure him that, he will pass and he will get study guides too. And I thought, wouldn't that all be on a tablet or a laptop or something?
Yeah, there's a lot of missing technology. Even if this show took place in 2018, there'd be a lot more surveillance cameras. Information would be, disseminated to the ships that went down. They would know
what the
things
threat
that happened on the ship.
Well, yeah.
Won't get into that too much,
spoilers, but there's definitely
the technology is kind of, and for people who are colonizing an alien planet or landing on an alien planet that they're completely unfamiliar with, they're just completely unprepared for.
Completely unprepared.
Weapon-wise.
They don't seem.
They've got supplies and stuff, but.
So here's another thing: if you got a rip in your spacesuit, look, I have tire patch kits for my bike, for my tent, for my air mattress.
That's a thing for some reason.
Wouldn't a spacesuit have a pocket with patch kits in it? And so you get a rip in your spacesuit and no patch kit? So you're just supposed to lay down and die?
Or it would just self-repair. I mean, if we're in the future, right?
Right.
There's tires that go flat. You can squirt the thing in there that'll air it up and seal it.
How about some duct tape? Duct tape will at least be better than nothing.
Duct tape's great.
But yeah, so there's a plot in the first episode that has that. You'll see if you haven't seen it already. But yeah, so just a lot of little science and engineering things, because everybody on the show is supposed to be specially picked for their qualifications to go, off to this new world to colonize a new world. So it's the best of the best, scientists and engineers and educated people and people who can pass stress tests, and I'm guessing psychological tests. And they show up, and there are some things they do that is clever and, well thought out to problem solving. And then there are other things that are just like way over their head, or I don't know how to deal with this. We don't have any way to patch that suit. Just forget it. That's just an example. There's a lot of other examples. So besides the things that I mentioned, there's also, something that really kind of bugged me, because with science fiction, it's all about the exploration. So I have always loved, Star Trek and the original Lost in Space. I remember loving it as a kid, and anything that's sci-fi and out in space and exploring, that's really fun to find what you're going to run across. And when they find, the little boy mentions it when he finds the crashed ship, spoiler, it happens quickly in the first episode. He finds the crashed ship that the robot came in, and he also records himself saying, "I'm the first one to find proof of another life form besides humans, to find alien life."
Right.
And that's it. All the other colonists, his parents, his doctor sister and sort of engineer sister, nobody seems interested in the technology or the fact that, alien technology way beyond ours, or the fact that there's even, proof of life, intelligent life, somewhere in the universe beyond Earth. Nobody shows any interest in that throughout the whole show. They don't want to visit his crashed ship and try to learn anything, and they don't want to examine the robot to try to learn anything from it.
They're just a bunch of dumbass colonists, man. Just like they said in Aliens. No, I mean, I agree with you on that level, and I wasn't scrutinizing the show that much, but even I was probably once an episode at least kind of going, "Oh, come on, really? This is okay, let's just move on." But it has some great moments, okay? I mean,
it does.
And if you used to love Lost in Space, not the movie. If you loved Lost in Space movie,
right,
go away. But if you love Lost in Space or Star Trek, stuff like that, it's and maybe you have kids, it's fairly
it's a good family show.
Yeah, it's fairly family friendly, and it does have nice moments. One in particular that gave me chills, of course, was when the spaceship flew out and they go into the Lost in Space theme kicked in, and I was like, "Ooh, nice!"
Yeah, when they get that theme song.
I mean, it's a decent show. I would recommend it overall.
I would say I recommend it overall, with the caveat that you are likely to be frustrated by a lot of the decisions that are made, both by the writer or director of the series, and specific things that the characters do, or specific plot twists, or some of the little filler material they throw in, like, oh, let's just throw this in. It's an obstacle to overcome. It doesn't really advance the story, but it helps fill up, an hour per episode, because they need to fill up that time. When I was really hoping that they would solve the problems in clever ways, and then, eventually get off that planet and go get lost in space and see some other adventures. But it seems like they're going to be lost in space in one place at a time, I guess, if they keep doing series. Who knows what they're going to do.
The series was kind of like that too, but you really need to make the place interesting, especially if we're going to be there for a long time. And that's the problem. The planet they were on, I've said it already, but it just wasn't enough going on. It was basically interaction between the family on the Jupiter 2, that's our main characters, and then other people on other ships that have crashed also.
Yeah.
And
some
other stuff, the robot, Dr. Smith is in it. What's her name? Parker Posey, I think.
Posey, yeah.
plays Dr. Smith, female Dr. Smith. She's really good.
Well, since you bring up specific characters, I did want to talk about the characters just briefly.
Yeah.
So the main family is the father, the mother. So the father is the actor from Black Sails,
yeah.
and I really loved his performance there.
Yeah,
and
the captain.
I took to his character pretty quickly on the show. The mother character, I thought she was, and people act irrational in real life, so that's completely fine that they do it. In a storytelling in a TV show or in a movie, it's fine because people are like that. But she's really irrational with him, I thought.
Oh, yeah.
Early on, really aggressive. A man who's serving his country and working hard and trying to be, the best.
There's a lot of marital strife.
A lot of marital strife, and it's mostly coming from her, and
it's aimed at him, and maybe for
I
good
felt
reason,
irrational.
maybe not. Yeah. A lot of her stuff, especially early on, she came off as just kind of like a banshee, like. Take it easy, lady. Jesus, you're on a fucking alien planet, Well,
that's the whole thing. You're on an alien planet. Let's focus on survival and what we need to do. And they sort of forget about the survival, and it just becomes about her strife with the husband. We don't need weapons to survive. We don't worry about shelter or food or fuel. They do eventually, but even when they get attacked, they don't go. Now let's go print up some weapons. They don't even do it then after they get attacked. And so instead they focus on family drama, and it mostly comes from the mother character, and she's a little irrational. However, she starts to have a character arc throughout the show, throughout the 10 episodes.
I ended up liking her.
And she does become more likable, and I think that's sort of what they were going for. She's supposed to be very, distraught with her marital relationship. And
unlike the original show, she's kind of in charge.
Oh, she's in charge in the original show?
No,
in this show.
Unlike the original show. In the original show, she's mom. She makes meals and
she's like the 60s
does
version
dishes
of a mother.
And wags her finger at the little boy for stealing the laser gun and stuff. But in this show, it's reversed. The mom is in charge.
She's in charge,
and he's sort of subordinate to her, which is an interesting, of course, switch from the 60s to the 2000s.
And I didn't have a problem that when she was in charge and she was using, when the writers wrote her problem solving and her solutions and her moments into the show for her to try to deal with an issue in a smart way. I loved that, and her taking charge, and the husband even supporting her when some of the other colonists.
There's just always sort of like something that's a little off, like going off by yourself again.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of times in the show where a character goes off by themselves. Dangerous world, no weapons, no buddy system. Come on. It happens with the kids, too. They wander off out into the forest, no weapons. Well,
That's a kind of a movie or a TV show trope where you're in some really dangerous place and the kid just wanders off.
Yeah. They did have the robot with them. So.
Where did the kid? Who's watching? Oh, never mind. Took
Yeah.
But
so that was the dad and the mom character, and then you have the two sisters. The elder sister who is from another marriage, I guess, with the mother, or maybe adopted because the dad.
She's from a previous marriage.
Yeah, the dad mentions that it wasn't his biological daughter, and it's obvious because she's a different ethnicity. As well, everybody else is kind of like blonde or red-haired because he's red-haired and the mother's kind of reddish brown-haired. But so the two older siblings, they seem to act like teenagers, but with a level of intelligence and wit. And at the beginning of the show, I found it a little obnoxious. But after a couple of episodes in, I really started to like them. Did you have any thoughts on the sister characters?
There's a spirit of the kind of family element and the sort of, relation to the original show where, kids are super intelligent, especially the little boy who is a super genius, and that kind of has translated into this Netflix show where the kids have to be kind of special to be allowed to come on this mission. on some level, and of course there's some sort of drama about that, like how one of the kids ended up passing the test to come and stuff like that.
I actually like that
interesting.
subplot.
Yeah, it's an interesting
how he
subplot.
qualified to become a colonist. There's some issues there with how he did that, but I like that subplot and how it plays into the story later. That was fun.
The kids are unrealistically super intelligent.
Well, yeah. The elder daughter was 18, and she's already a doctor.
18 or 19, yeah.
The two older sisters. It took me a few episodes, but I warmed up to them. The mother, like I said, I warmed up to her, but it was much further into the series, probably past halfway, before I really started to like her. She started to get over her arc, and she started dealing with things in a little more rational way when I thought she was a little irrational or dismissive even early on in the show. And then the little boy, it's interesting because, he's so young, and obviously he's smart, otherwise he wouldn't be on the colony, one of the colonists. But and he makes some decisions that seem like he could be tricked because he's so naive and young, and that I was okay with that. I was, of course, throughout the scene I was saying, no, don't do that, but he did. And he's young, and his brain is still developing. He's inexperienced.
There's the fun kind of Terminator 2 element where he has his own robot. From the first episode, he befriends this alien robot. I guess we've spoiled that already. And what he does with it, and what he has to do in order to keep it safe from the other colonists who are scared to death of it, or keep them from freaking out. And some interesting elements to that whole subplot with the kid and the robot, and then what happens later with the robot and Dr. Smith, and it's a lot of fun elements.
Right, so those are the five family. And I wanted to talk about the sixth main character. I mean, well, you have the robot, but that's
not much of a character.
It's not really a character. He's just sort of an object. But you have Parker Posey, who plays Dr. Smith. And I had mixed emotions about her early on. She's such a haggard character and such a deceptive character and such a self-serving character that you can't help but despise her. And so, I remember projecting early on that, like, I don't like this character, I don't like what they're doing with this character. But then as the show goes, you realize, well, she is self-serving and that she's desperate, and she's not as intelligent or educated or whatever than everybody else. So she's doing the best she can, and it's mostly to take care of herself. And that kind of element I find that I started to like, especially as the show went on, as she started devising more intricate plans about how she was going about doing things. Yeah. I warmed up to liking her as an antagonist, because that's what she definitely was. But early on I was a little annoyed, but then once I started to see the method to the madness, and who she was, I really started to like her character.
Yeah. I kind of liked her from the start. Yeah. I think she was well crafted, and if you have any familiarity, here I go back again to the 1965 show, but Dr. Smith was a real,
well, he was like a spy.
He was a bastard.
So, and
he
caused
was
a lot of problems.
Bastard in that show. So she's a little more subtle. The Netflix show version of Dr. Smith, a little more subtle and much more conniving, or maybe not much more, but she's an interesting character. I think I kind of found her interesting to begin with.
In the beginning, I did like that one scene early on they did with her sister. Like, you just immediately know what kind of character she is. Right. So yeah, that's the story and that's the characters. Like I said, a lot of good stuff.
Do they ever get off the planet?
Well,
we're not going to
season 2 going to be lost on planet 2, or
they'll be lost somewhere, some planet or some space, or
we'll see.
Maybe they'll find an asteroid.
If they do a season 2, we'll have to find out.
They'll be lost on an asteroid.
So would overall you'd recommend the show?
Yeah, I think so. It's not something that blew me away. It's probably not something I'll go back to and watch.
Yeah.
ever. Maybe if the new season comes out, I might try and refresh myself, but probably not.
Yeah, I don't think it's a show I'd ever want to watch again. I may watch it again to do like an in-depth critical analysis of each show, but we'll see if I can get around to that. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think I'd watch it again, but I would recommend the show, especially if you've got small kids, or you're just a fan of science fiction, because you get some good science, some bad science, some fun sci-fi concepts. And it's a good-looking show. Everything. The production design is amazing.
We didn't even get into that.
Costumes?
It's actually Lost in Vancouver. What the show should have been called. But just, beautiful looking show. The sets, the props, the scenes of, crashed ships hanging over cliffs and things collapsing, and the little vehicles they had, the little 4x4 vehicle, cool. Like van things. Very good looking in the areas they were in, of course, a lot of which were, Vancouver or
probably
British Columbia. I looked it up.
Oh, you looked it up? Yeah.
That's where they filmed most of the exterior stuff. But it's just, it is a really good looking show, and that helps a lot.
It did help. The vehicles...
They actually spent some money and put some effort into it on that level. Maybe not so much in the writing department, but...
The screenplays read a lot of screenplays that I've read that are early drafts. Like, there's a lot of good ideas in there, but then there's a lot of ideas that need to be worked out.
It could have been rewritten.
So I would love to see them put a little bit more time to the screenplay, but that's a problem that we get a lot.
It's a little too late for that.
Yeah, well, it's already produced, it's already out there, but
I'll go check it out. Overall, I guess I'd put it at a B-, maybe.
B-?
Somewhere.
Yeah, B- maybe.
I don't think it fell into the C category for me.
For me, there are a lot of problems, small that you can forgive, but a lot of big ones that are hard to forgive. And for me, B-, maybe C+. But I did like it enough to want to see another season, so I think maybe it did well enough. The characters warmed me over too by the end, so I would maybe say B- also. But check it out if you haven't, and if a season 2 comes out, maybe we'll review that one too.
Yeah, I'll be watching it. It's not to the point where I wouldn't watch a season 2. I'd give it a shot at least. Okay job, Netflix.
Okay job.
Not bad, but not.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Really, if they just focus on the writing, I think they'll have a huge hit on their hands. But anyways, that's it for this time. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, everybody.